When I was 8 years old, this local farm hosted a pumpkin patch called Pumpkin Pickings. It was on a Friday, 1 week before Halloween. They had bobbing for apples, pumpkin carvings, and hay rides. Even at such a young age, it was something that I always looked forward to. This particular year when I was 8, we were going to it right after school let out. Since it was only 1 week from Halloween, my dad let me wear my Michael Myers mask to the farm. Anyway, my parents took me and my twin brother, and when we got there, my brother begged to go on the hayride first. He loved seeing the scarecrows and fields of corn. We got in line for the hayride. It was packed. My mom and twin brother were the last two to get on due to capacity, so me and my dad had to wait for the next one. As we waited in line, I had to use the bathroom, so we got out of line and my dad led us to the bathroom. We both went into the public restroom, but I finished first and waited outside for him. I waited for about 10 minutes and my dad still had not come out yet. I decided to go back in, but my dad wasn't in there, and that's when I began to freak out. I was alone at Pumpkin's Pickings, and my 8-year-old brain was terrified of being abandoned. An older lady saw my distress and asked me where my parents were. I sobbed under my mask and told her that I lost my dad and that I needed help. She took my hand and said that we'll go find them. I remembered that she had smelled weird and that her grip on my hand was tight. She then pulled out a basic flip phone and started to call someone. It seemed to be small talk until I heard her say, "Yes, I have him now with me." She hung up the phone, looked at me, and said that was my dad. He's going to meet us in the parking lot. Even at the young age of 8, I knew that something wasn't right. I'd never seen this woman before, and how did she know who my dad was if I still had my Michael Myers mask on? She tried to lead me towards the parking lot, where I saw a black SUV parked with all tinted windows. I tried to pull away from her, but she tightened her grip. Now, dear, your father is right over there." And I saw an employee of the farm and wailed my arms at him. I said I did not know who this lady was and to please help. The employee asked the lady if she knew me. She said yes, she was just taking me to my dad. The employee looked at her in disbelief and told me to stand by him. He radioed for assistance. The lady took off and jumped into the black SUV. A few minutes later, my mom, dad, and brother came sprinting over. They'd been looking for me all over. The employee explained the situation and how there was a possible predator. My father shook with rage. They thanked the employee for helping out. The rest of the day was ruined. We did not feel safe there anymore. I was too young to comprehend what possibly could have happened. But now that I'm in my mid-20s, when I look back on that day, I'm disgusted. This happened when I was a young teenager, and to this day I still cannot explain what happened. It was a few weeks before Halloween. Me and my brother Benny were feeling mischievous and wanted to pull some pranks. We lived in a small agricultural town that mainly consisted of farmhouses. Our next door neighbor, Old Man Hatchet, had a huge farm with tons of scarecrows. One night, way past midnight, Benny had the master plan of spray painting Old Man Hatchet's scarecrows. We both thought it was hilarious and a genius idea, so we snuck out our back door and made our way over to the farm. The full moon was bright, and we spotted 3 scarecrows dressed in jeans, a flannel shirt, and a straw hat. We decided that these would be the victims. After we spray painted "You Suck" all over the scarecrows, we victoriously sprinted back to our place, laughing the whole way, imagining the way Old Man Hatchet's face would look in the morning when he saw the scarecrows. When we got into bed, I couldn't sleep and was just scrolling on my phone when a rock or something hit my window. This freaked me out because it was almost 3 in the morning and the rock hitting my window sounded deliberate. I crept up to the window and looked outside. All I saw was rows and rows of corn, but then at the very edge of my backyard, I saw something. It was a scarecrow, and it waved. I blinked. That's impossible. I stared at it for a minute straight without blinking to be sure that it would not move again, and it didn't. I went to Benny's room to tell him what happened, but he was fast asleep. I went back to my room and looked back outside. The scarecrow was gone. I must have been hallucinating or something. I got back into bed and went to sleep. The next morning, I was awoken by my parents in my room. They said Mr. Hatchet just stopped by. His scarecrows are missing. Do we know anything about that? I shifted my eyes nervously, but told them no. How would I know anything? Fear ripped through my heart when they left my room. Maybe what I saw last night wasn't a hallucination. Night came and I was fast asleep. At 2 a.m., our doorbell started ringing like mad. I heard my dad rush down the stairs, then I followed behind him. When he opened the door, a scarecrow was propped up on the door, drenched in something red. I nearly had a heart attack. We called the police. They deduced that it was Old Man Hatchet's scarecrow, but they have no idea how it ended up in our front door. What's even more bizarre, attached to the scarecrow was a note that said, "I know what you did." This terrified me, and I learned a valuable lesson. Never again did me or my brother sneak out and destroy someone else's property, especially scarecrows. The month of October means haunted hayrides and haunted houses. Every weekend, my friend group would pick a different haunted attraction to go to. Last week, Lexi picked Field of Screams to go to, but this week was my turn, and I chose Valley of Fear. It was a haunted maze where they could grab you and pull you into other parts of the maze to freak you out. Lexi and Ryan hated it, but it was by far my favorite out of all the local attractions. There was a Friday night. Lexi, Ryan, and I stood in line at Valley of Fear for our tickets. We each had a to-go cup of coffee filled with apple cider and bourbon. Let's just say that it helped enhance the scares. The first maze was good. It was in the cornfield, and zombie scarecrows would pop up and grab you and scream in your face. We were having a blast. The next maze was the crazy chainsaw farmer. We were walking through it, screaming at the top of our lungs at every jump scare or chainsaw starting up. That's when I was grabbed from the side and pulled into the cornfield. I screamed and laughed, trying to get back to my group, but I was pulled even harder. I was a little buzzed, but I started to get nervous as to why this employee was pulling me so hard. Once they grabbed you, they usually just let you go right away so you can run away scared. But this guy didn't. I looked at him, and I realized that it was just a man in a hoodie. He didn't have any makeup or anything on. We were pretty far out in the cornfield, and the group was already about 40 yards ahead of me. I knew if I didn't act now, no one would notice that I was gone from the group. I tried to yell for help, but the man put his hand over my mouth. In his other hand, he pulled out a knife. My life flashed before my eyes as he raised it and brought it down. I tried to move, but he sliced my forearm deeply. He raised the knife again. I bit down on his hand so hard that I heard the bones break. The man shrieked. I then turned and kicked him in the nuts, then punched him in the face. He fell to the ground in agony, and I knew that this was my moment. I booked it all the way back to my group, who were already at the end of the maze, waiting and wondering where I was. I explained what happened, and we got security involved immediately. They put the whole attraction on hold, turned on all the floodlights, and scanned the cornfields. The police were even called, but they did not find anyone. An ambulance was called, and my arm was tended to. I have no idea who that man was, or why he was waiting for me in the cornfield to attack me. My arm healed, but the memory of him trying to literally stab and kill me on the spot still haunts me daily.